Welcome in, everybody, to the pack. As you can see, once again, back together, myself and Zach Jacobson. Very excited to be back. Jen is not here tonight, but Jen will make her debut very soon, hopefully. We're excited about that, to get all three of us back. But Zach, it's been a while since just the two of us have been doing the show, I think almost since the draft. So before we get into Packer football, how you doing? Obviously, other side of the country. How's everything been?
Yeah, I think when we last did this, I was about less than a month into living here. So I'm pretty much a full-on New Englander at this point. So I'm going to start rooting for the Red Sox. I'm going to start covering the Patriots. Sorry.
Yeah, that sounds like everyone assuming I'll start covering the Jets because some guy ended up there. I don't even know his name.
Oh, you mean your hero?
Yeah. I think he's all of our heroes, just different levels of hero. You know what I mean?
He's definitely a hero for the local drug dealer. That's for sure.
Yeah, that guy is very appreciative of Aaron's presence now in New Jersey, I'm sure. But all right, well, I'm happy that we finally got back to this. Hopefully, going forward for everyone watching, we will.
Well, hold on. What about you, Eli?
Oh, well.
How are you doing?
I am doing good. I also, just like you, in a bit of a move, not as drastic. Instead of moving across the country, I kind of just moved across the city. But it's been good. I finally got somewhere to sit, so that's pretty cool. Instead of doing all the shows standing, Pat McAfee style. But it has been good. It's been, a transition, but definitely a good one. So that is nice to have. Also, just being closer to the city makes just living life a lot easier.
I feel like standing is a lot more fun. You have more
I didn't mind it, actually.
Movement ability. Yeah, there was a period when me, you, and Jen were doing we were doing open book for a little while, and I wanted to figure out a way to kind of rig my area to set my laptop up so I can stand.
Yeah,
but it never worked out. So I actually liked it, for you specifically.
No, it does give you more. I don't know, just feel freer when you're on your feet than sitting, definitely. But we'll see. I'm sure I'll be adjusting it as we go. But Zach, we haven't really had the chance to talk, for our training camp preseason. So just before we get into specifics, what are some of the things throughout camp and the games that you've really, really loved, or maybe has really concerned you? Could be, coaching, players, whatever it is, just stuff that maybe you weren't expecting that's got you excited for the season.
Well, being a pessimist, sometimes I think I should start with what kind of concerns me. It's just the operations on offense, the botched snaps that happened in a game against the Patriots. It happened in practice multiple times. I feel like people naturally want to blame Josh Myers or they want to blame Jordan Love, but they miss out on this important piece of information. There's a different quarterback under center for the first time in 15 years. So naturally, these things are going to kind of take a little while to get going. Josh Myers has to get used to a new guy, not a new cadence, but just someone with different tendencies, someone who isn't really on the same wavelength as Josh Myers in terms of snapping the ball, getting the playoff before the clock runs down. There's so many little intricacies of that exchange between center and quarterback that people miss out on. So it's not too concerning, but it's still to a point where it's like, okay, is this going to spill over into the regular season? Is this going to be a problem, early on? But what I've really enjoyed seeing as well is the obvious. It's Jordan Love. And the thing I've noticed above all else is the fact that he has consistently gotten better. It's not like, he's kind of doing this little roller coaster. I know some of the reports out of camp kind of, conflict with that, but from what I've read, from what I've seen in the games, thank you, Ben. God, I missed him so much. I don't know. I don't know how I made it all this time without him. He's consistently gotten better. His footwork is dialed in. He looks more comfortable in the offense. He looks more in command of the offense. And, he has some accuracy issues, which of course, coming out of Utah State, that was an issue. That was a problem everybody was kind of aware of. it's going to take some time to really kind of hone in on the kind of quarterback that he's going to be. Like, this is going to be his first look at extensive playing time as the starting quarterback of the Packers, a chance to progress week to week for other teams to game plan for him. They're going to have more film on him now. So teams are going to have a little bit of an upper hand. Is he going to be able to rise above that, or is he going to let that kind of, consume him in his early months as a starter? So from what I've seen and from what I've read, he's consistently been getting better. Even when things go wrong, like even when that botch snap happened against the Patriots, next drive leads them down the field. It was at 95, 96 yards down the field. Because I know they started at 93, then there was the 5-yard penalty, I believe it was. So it was
I think it ended up being like 96.
Yeah, it was a pretty long drive, and he led them into the end zone. So he looks really good. And that's all really you can ask for, is just progression.
Yeah, that's for sure. I think for me, what I've loved the most I didn't even mean to say that, but it's just every time he drops back, it seems like he knows exactly where he's going with the ball. There's no like fidgeting. There's no, 3 different reads. And obviously, there has been some off-schedule plays, which is nice too. But just seeing someone play fully in the structure of the offense is really nice. He's not trying to be superhero every play. Again, I don't know who I could be referencing, but he's just doing exactly what's asked of him. And when you have talent like Watson and Dobbs, and the way we're seeing Musgrave play right now and Aaron Jones, you just need, like we've been saying the whole offseason, kind of just be a game manager. Don't turn the ball over, and this team could end up winning more games than I think a lot of people would expect. So that's exciting to see.
Yeah, as you said, he's not panicking. He's not kind of fidgeting around in the pocket. He knows where his checkdowns are, which I think, people don't talk about enough, but he is fully aware of where his checkdowns are, where those outlets are, where he can get rid of the ball fast. We've seen it already in the 2 preseason games where he's done that. It's very encouraging. Some of those little subtle nuances to the position. Like you said, he doesn't have to be Superman. They don't need him to do anything crazy. Play within the structure of the offense. Know where your outlets are, and don't make repeat mistakes. That's probably like the most imperative thing in his development right now. You're gonna make a mistake, cool, learn from it, but don't make repeat mistakes.
Yeah, no, and he's like you said, it's just every time we're hearing about him, it seems like it's better than the last, and that's really great. And I do like the point that you mentioned about checking the ball down, because I think we've spoken about it plenty in the past with Rodgers, just sometimes hitting Aaron Jones or whoever the running back at the time was, a quick check down and just move on, move on to the next play. And Love seems to really have no issue at all. I mean, he's throwing plenty of balls that are just quickly right out of his hands in less than a second. And who cares? When you have talent and guys who can make plays after the catch, that's just what you got to do. So,
and Ben makes a good point too about what Mina Kimes said, how Jordan Love's been like one of the least pressured quarterbacks. He was one of the 4 least pressured quarterbacks in the preseason. I know one's Brian Hoyer, one's Desmond Ridder, and I can't remember the third one, but Jordan Love is right there at the bottom at about like an 11% pressure rate or something. Yeah. So that speaks to not only how well he's getting the ball out, but just how well that offensive line in front of him is playing. And that's without David Bakhtiari. So that's without his primary blindside protector. They've been shuffling guys in. Rasheed Walker got the start last week, and I'm sure we'll talk about him later. He had a really great performance. So they're trying different things along the offensive line, and they haven't wavered. So, that's also that's going to be a big part of his development this season, is how well that offensive line is able to kind of, withstand through the season and protect him. Because if they're playing well, he's probably going to play well. The running game is going to play well. Everything just kind of works in unison.
Yeah. We're going to get to the offensive line in a second. I think the only real piece of news out of Packers camp today was Rashawn Gary returning to, full kind of practice, team drills, stuff that, I mean, when this injury happened, what was it, week 9 or 10 last year, we were looking at mid-season for a return date for Gary, but I could be wrong. But at this point, I'm kind of expecting week 1, unless something weird happens, maybe week 2 or 3. But Zach, what are your feelings on Gary getting back to practice today and his progression and where you think he is with that injury?
From the clips we've seen, I mean, he looks phenomenal.
Yeah.
He doesn't look like he's really lost a step. He still has a speed. He threw Zach Tom on his ass today in practice. So, I mean, he's Rashawn Gary. And we know how the Packers are with injuries and managing guys coming back. So the fact that he was able to return to team drills yesterday is pretty remarkable. I mean, by the time the season kicks off, he's going to be about 10 months removed from the injury. So He's right about within that right time frame. No setbacks. No, he's not coming back too soon. He's, he's going to be Rashawn Gary again, and I think that's going to be. I mean, that's going to be pretty significant, not only for the Packers getting pressure with that front, but just also for like the development of Lucas Van Ness, because now there's not going to be any urgency for him to go out there and play snaps. It's just like when they drafted Rashawn Gary, they signed Zadarius Smith and Preston Smith a month later. Rashawn Gary was kind of that third rotational guy throughout his rookie year. There was no urgency for him to go out there and contribute and pressure to make plays. They kind of played him on that rotational basis, and it'll probably be the same for Lucas Van Ness this season, which is totally fine because he's a guy he needs to develop. So Rashawn Gary being there, Preston Smith being there, Kingsley and Agbari, having this coming out party against the Patriots. A lot of people came into this summer really hyped for him, and I can't blame them. So they're going to have a nice complement of pass rushers, and that's Justin Hollins. He's a guy they brought in last year who's made an impact, who can play, give them serious snaps this year. Brenton Cox could potentially make the roster as an undrafted free agent from Florida. He was an incredibly just fascinating prospect. I know he's been dismissed from 2 different programs, but the talent is there, and he should make this roster. But yeah, there won't be any urgency for Lucas Van Ness to play. Rashawn Gary being back in the mix just completely changes the makeup of this front seven.
Yeah, it helps a ton because I think right after the draft, and again, that was at the time people were assuming Gary's not going to play at least a handful of weeks, if not more. I think everyone, including myself, was like, all right, well, I guess we're going to see Van Ness playing early and often. I mean, we knew Enagbari would be there, but between the two of them, we thought we would see Van Ness a lot. And in the end, it will probably be best to bring him along a bit slower because, like you said, he is very similar to Gary in so many ways. The fact that they both played inside and out, that they're, maybe their college production wasn't at the highest, but like just the pure skill, speed, strength was all very evident. So it's going to be really excited to see. And obviously, you mentioned Enagbare. Really, I mean, I was at the game Saturday. I mean, he was just pretty unblockable. I really loved the fact that his 2 sacks were very different. You had the bull rush on the first one, and then that speed bend on the second one resulting in a fumble. So this pass rush, I mean, the whole preseason and training camp, we've been causing a ton of pressure, and that's without Rashawn Gary and without Preston Smith, at least in the preseason games. So that's pretty encouraging for the younger edge rushers and defensive linemen, which I guess we'll just get to right now. Carl Brooks, I think he was kind of like the player of the night, if not Enagbare. He had a big game. Kobe Wooden had some big plays. What do you think about this young interior defensive line behind Kenny Clark?
I'm digging it, man. I mean, it's like we haven't seen the Packers have a defensive line this deep since I would say maybe 2014. Yeah. So this is just so far. I mean, it's only 2 preseason games and of course practices. So, there's a lot to be seen from what these guys can offer. But if you're getting these kinds of returns already from mid to late round draft picks, Carl Brooks, Colby Wooden, Devontae Wyatt has been, kind of ascending in his second year so far. I mean, that's without Rashawn Gary. That's with Preston Smith only playing 5 snaps this preseason. That's without Kenny Clark. I mean, they're generating pressure without their top guys. I've said it multiple times in this show, the teams with the deepest defensive lines, those are the ones that make the playoffs. Those are the ones that go on deep runs. Those are the ones that could potentially appear in a Super Bowl. And the greatest example of that was the 2017 Eagles. Hell, you could even use the 2023 Eagles, what they're about to be. You can use that as an example because they are freaking deep up front. So I think that if the Packers can kind of mirror that, I mean, that's just going to take so much pressure off of the offense. If this defense performs like the way they are built to on paper, which obviously that's been the biggest thing the last 2 years. Like they're built, they have great players at every level, but it hasn't translated into games under Joe Barry. So if they can actually put that into action this season, then this could actually, we say this every year, this could actually be a top 5 fucking defense. Finally.
I mean, on paper, this could be the best defense that's ever been because I don't think you're ever going to find a defense that has 8 first-round picks in their starting 11. It's unheard of.
Yeah, it's a little fucking ridiculous that they've invested this heavily on defense and they consistently every single year underperform. So there's no excuse this year. If they can continue to generate pressure the way they have been this summer, that's just going to make everybody's jobs easier behind them. It's going to make everyone's jobs easier at the second level. The middle linebackers is going to make everyone's jobs easier in the secondary. Everyone gets a piece of the cake. Everyone enjoys success. It's it all starts up front.
Yeah, no, it's exciting. Obviously, when we came out of the draft with 13 picks with an already young team, we weren't sure what it's going to look like. But just the thought of how much young talent across this whole roster is there and what it can grow into, it's a pretty exciting thought. But just sticking with the defense, another position that we've been talking a ton about that I feel like hasn't really gone any clearer would be safety, which I mean, it's been kind of clear which with who the top two have been, which has basically been Savage and Ford. But I don't know how much confidence that's giving all the Packers Nation right now. So, number one, do you see those two as your starters week one? And how do you feel in general about the way that room looks?
I mean, that position group as a whole really sucks.
Yeah.
There's no other way to put that. And it's really unfortunate because it's one of my favorite position groups to watch. They need Darnell Savage to get back to where he was in 2020. They need him to get back to that level. I feel like they're going to roll with the safe bet between Rudy Ford. I know they've kind of been rotating guys. You know, Rudy Ford's been in there. Jonathan Owens has been in there. Tavarius Moore has been in there. I don't think Anthony Johnson Jr. has seen any reps with the first team. But, you know, they have a bunch of bodies there. They have a lot they can experiment with. And I think that's pretty much what this year is going to be. It's just kind of just an experimental, see what they have on the bottom end of the roster in guys like Anthony Johnson. Yeah, you're not bald anymore. I'm really proud of you. It's about time.
Finally. It took so many Bosley treatments, but thank you to Chris for sending me that link. Total life changer.
And I've been pounding, I mean, you know this better than anybody. I've been pounding the freaking table for them to draft a safety with a premium pick for so long now. I'm glad they got Anthony Johnson Jr. He was a demon at Iowa State, but he's still learning a relatively new position at safety. So he's not exactly going to be some seamless fit. It's going to take time for him. And he was one of my favorite picks of the class. I feel like they really have something there. Not right now. He's got to develop.
Oh, I thought you meant not right now to this.
I realized when I was talking, I cut myself off at pounding.
Yeah.
So I was like, I've been pounding.
Yeah.
Yeah. I shouldn't have done that, knowing the people we have in these comments.
Yeah. Looking at safety, I mean, I guess it's somewhat comforting that from day one they kind of found their top two and have stuck with it. So I guess they at least feel confident. I know there's been some hype about Tavarius Moore, so maybe he can do something more than we thought. Either way, it's going to take either a Darnell Savage resurgence or some kind of major step up from one of the other guys to make that room not potentially the worst in all of football, which it really could be. And that's pretty sad because it's just never fun to have any position.
That's pretty sad.
That is just pretty sad. It's that simple. But something that is a lot less sad, I would say, is the cornerback group, obviously led by Jair. We don't have to talk about how good he is. But Rasul's having a really good camp, which actually after last year, it's pretty nice to hear because, you know, I think for a minute we were thinking, was that stretch in 2021 just kind of a fluke, some interceptions, and then not that great last year, but he's having a really good camp. But obviously, the most talked about player at cornerback has been Carrington Valentine, making plays seems like on a daily basis. A bit of a tough performance against the Patriots for sure. But what have you been, falling into the hype that everyone else has been with Carrington Valentine so far?
Yeah, I feel like if you would be able to tell by now if he was like a little bit of a fluke, because even when he gets beat, he's in guys' faces. He is jamming. He's sticky at the top of the route. He is just absolutely sticking with the receiver, and I don't think I've seen him fall behind on a route. Like he has been on top of, he's been on top of guys consistently. And he has the speed. I'm not saying this just because of the 37, but I see a lot of Sam Shields in his game. They're very familiar in terms of just how they're able to kind of maintain leverage with the receivers with their assignment. I love what I've seen from him so far. And yeah, he had a little bit of a rough game against the Patriots, which is going to happen. I know it's easy to buy into the hype and get so excited for a young guy like this, especially a 7th round pick that's just making headlines like this. But he's going to have ups and downs. He's going to be a little bit sporadic. He's going to struggle, especially when he goes up against actual starting competition, like in the regular season. which may or may not happen depending on how the cornerback room shakes out, which it's all purely dependent on Eric Stokes and where he is when he comes
Yeah,
back.
I didn't even mention Stokes. Jeez, I feel like I haven't heard anything, like any updates. Have you?
Matt LaFleur just keeps saying, he's not ready to come back yet.
Do we even know? Like, we just know it's an ankle, but like, was his ankle just broken? Like, what do we even know?
I think it was his foot.
Just broke his foot.
I'm pretty sure. I don't know if he broke his foot, but I know it was something involving his foot. It was bizarre. Like at the time, it was like, okay, he had a knee and ankle injury. That was what I originally read. Then it turned into an ankle injury, and then it turned into a foot injury. So I don't know exactly what the injury was specifically. It obviously must have been pretty bad because he might have had two separate injuries on that one occasion.
Rough for a guy who, had so much promise. Obviously, a little bit of a downtake in year two, but hopefully, he gets back on the field soon enough and we see him the way he was playing as a rookie, because that was obviously very good. But yeah, so for the defense, that basically rounds it out. Like you said, I mean, all the potential, all the talent, it's all there. We just don't know if it's going to come together because it's been there for years.
Now, do you think they'll keep? How many cornerbacks do you think they'll keep? Because you have to take the safety room into account as well, in terms of the numbers.
Let me think. You got those four. I mean, I think you're keeping at least 5 corners, just off the top of my head. But yeah, I think it's probably going to be more like 6. And then safeties, what do we usually go with? 3 or 4 blanking?
They usually go with like 5 or 6.
I don't know. I have to look at my list. But I mean, looking at the way it is, I just trying to think who would even be 6 deep at safety. I think it's a disturbing thought to think.
Well, because I feel like Dallin Levitt's a lock just because of special teams. So you'll have Darnell Savage, Jonathan Owens, Rudy Ford, Javarius Moore, Anthony Johnson Jr., and then Dallin Levitt.
So that's 6, yeah. So those almost certainly. And then this is someone who I think a lot of people really liked. He was injured a bit, but I think Gaines most likely makes a roster. He's been playing a lot of special teams also, so that they know is important. So it's going to be interesting. What do you think for corner? How many they keep?
Well, that last spot, I mean, that really comes down to either Corey Ballantyne or Shamar Jean-Charles, who I don't know. I really don't know. I feel like they'll keep 5 corners. I think just because I know Brian Gutekunst loves his draft picks, I feel like Shamar Jean-Charles will be in there. When I put out a 53-man roster prediction last week, I had William Hooper there. I had him as the last guy making it just because he had an amazing game against the Bengals. Like he was like on lockdown against the Bengals. So I feel like, okay, they could have something there. Now, I don't think he makes it now, but as spur of the moment, I was really high on William Hooper and what he did against Cincinnati. But yeah, I don't know. There's also the chance that, hey, maybe Eric Stokes is making remarkable strides in his recovery that we're not hearing about, even though he's not participating in individual drills or team drills. Maybe they only keep 4 corners. It's really just up in the air, I feel like. But I think 4 or 5 is like a healthy number. I can't figure out who they're going to put in that 5th spot.
Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting race for probably that last corner spot. Come down to 2 or 3 different people, and Eric Stokes' health will play a large part in that, I'm sure. But looking at the offense now, so we talked about Love a bit, but I feel like we got to talk about Romeo Doubs being like the star receiver, even though in limited action during preseason training camp. It's kind of like that last year with Love, constantly making plays. It seemed, I thought he had a really good rookie year, but according to Packers Twitter, that didn't happen, and he has terrible hands, which I understand there were some drops, but I have actually always liked the way he made some hand catches. He had another one against the Patriots this week. So looking at Doubs, do you think we know Watson is, the one in that room, but do you think Doubs can probably, compete with him in terms of receptions?
Oh, yeah. I said that. I think.
All right, relax, guy. Jeez.
Hey, whoa, settle the fuck down over there. No, I really think like we're on the same kind of like wavelength here because I think I said that like a month ago because Christian Watson, he's like your take the top off the defense guy. He's the guy that's going to, stress the safeties deep. He's going to, dictate the coverage downfield. That's going to open up a lot underneath for guys like Romeo Doubs, for guys like Jaden Reed, for guys like Samori Toure, or whoever the hell is going to be the fourth wide receiver. I don't know at this point. Because apparently Packers Twitter wants to fucking cut Samori Toure. I have no idea why.
Oh, I didn't even see that. That's exciting.
Yeah, everyone is doing that whole groupthink thing where it's like, oh, one guy says Samori Toure is just a guy. There's going to, you can find someone else just like him. And then everybody else started the same fucking thing. I didn't understand it. No, but Romeo Doubs, I think he could easily, I feel like, lead the team in receptions this year. Not only receptions, but targets as well. And I don't buy that whole, he had a bad rookie season. He was, I believe, leading the team in receiving for the first, couple months of the season before his injury against Detroit. Yeah. First play of the game, 18-yard reception, fucks up his ankle. He was probably going to have a big game. He was probably going to be a focal point in that game because that was the week after the Buffalo game, right?
Yeah. And he had a huge game in Buffalo.
Yeah. So he was obviously, kind of coming up a little bit. And once he came back from that injury, they never put him on IR. Comes back 4 weeks later, and he's not the same. He's just not getting open with as much ease. He struggled off the line. You could tell he lacked a little bit of confidence, and he lacked the same speed that helped him win so much early through the first couple months of the season. So, the injury derailed what was going to be a really good rookie season. And probably one of the best rookie seasons by a receiver in the Aaron Rodgers era.
I would say, I can't even think of someone, a rookie, right? Cobb and Devontae had some big games as rookies, but the seasons weren't all that great. I think it would have been the best. Or as it was, he had 6 touchdowns. They had 3 touchdowns and 425 yards, but in missing 5 games. So it would have been closer to 700-800 yards, 5 touchdowns. Could have been a very, very good rookie season for sure.
And probably would have had more targets and more yards in those games when he came back from injury, if he was himself.
Just in general.
And like Chris says right here too, like ankle injuries, lower body injuries for a guy who, like, your legs are your foundation, like, that's catastrophic.
Yeah. Look, as a receiver, obviously, but just a release off the line. If there's anything with your feet or your ankles that you're worried about, totally messes you up. So hopefully that's not an issue this year. It hasn't been so far, and hopefully that keeps up. But someone I think I might be the most excited about on the offense is Luke Musgrave. The way they're using him, everything we're seeing out of camp, it's just, it seems like every day he's scoring another touchdown. When I was there at training camp, he went up, I don't even know how high, including his height. It seemed like he was jumping over the fence. It's just, since Jermichael Finley, no one's come close. And the way they're giving him end arounds and all this kind of creative stuff, he might be faster and more athletic than Jermichael Finley. So just how, rookie tight ends historically, it's really hard as a rookie tight end to be good in the NFL. Are people maybe too excited? I think as a career, maybe we're all in the same place, but are you maybe too excited as a rookie for Musgrave? Chris, you know what? Leave me alone. I'm just saying, because people want firsthand opinions. I'm not just saying I saw it on Twitter. I saw it with these eyeballs.
Wait, you were at training camp?
I was at training camp.
He was at fucking training camp. Hey, he was at training camp. Hey!
Woo!
No, it's hard to temper your expectations when you have a guy like Luke Musgrave there because, like you said, it's been since Jermichael Finley. It's been 10 years since he went down, and they haven't had a tight end that can stretch the field like him, a tight end that can, that can big body, smaller, faster defensive backs and get open against them. It's been so long. I just wish that they got someone like that a little sooner. They would have gotten like Aaron Rodgers, that big body tight end that can do those Jermichael Finley things, because that would have been awesome seeing him paired with a guy like that again. And not slow ass Jimmy Graham or slow Lance Kendricks or slow Martellus Bennett or Jared Cook. He was good for the first month before his ankle injury.
Yeah, I was about to say, obviously they probably should have brought him back, but people talk about Cook like he had the greatest season of a tight end. It was basically that catch because he was hurt. It's not his fault, but he was hurt. But I think he could have been good, but people need to relax a little that he was incredible. But yeah.
Yeah, he they live off of that catch in Dallas, and it's like they see that, and it's like, oh, we should have re-signed him. Another fucking Ted Thompson blunder.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, it's okay. See, I'm yelling, and now the dog's scared. I hope you're happy. Which do you want to here? Envy, come here. Do you want to say hi? We're talking about tight ends.
Yeah, let's get the dog in the frame over here.
Yeah, we might as well. Come on, up. Come on. Okay, whatever. All right, there we go.
Ooh,
yeah.
that's
you want
a
to
good
talk
dog.
about? You want to talk about tight ends? Go. There's the microphone.
Can you play safety? We need you, please. Can you play safety? Sorry.
She's definitely not a receiver because anytime we play catch with a little football toy that we have, she just lets it hit her in the face. She doesn't bother catching it. All right, come on. Get out of here.
Sounds like your favorite receiver, Michael Clark.
Shut your fucking mouth. All right.
I had to do it.
I'm sensitive.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I feel like he's gonna shatter the perception. Luke Musgrave. He's gonna shatter, not my dog. Luke Musgrave is gonna shatter the perception about how tight ends contribute early on in their careers, which I'm still a believer in. I know a lot of people are about, it's a steep learning curve for tight ends just because you have to master so much in the offense. You got to learn how to block in the running game. You have to learn how to pass protect. My microphone's fucking up. 1 second. Wait. Okay, hello.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have to learn so many different things, and then you got to go out and catch passes. So, Luke Musgrave, as long as they don't use him as a blocker, because we've seen him struggle so far this summer in that department, I don't think he's going to be very good at it, at least not yet. But that's what Tucker Kraft is for. That's what Josiah DeGuara is for. So let Luke Musgrave go out, run a route, catch a pass, use him in all the creative ways they've been doing so far. You could tell he's going to be a focal point of this offense, like early on.
Yeah, I mean, he's getting a ton of targets, and they seem to just want to try to get him the ball any way they can. Screens, end arounds, stuff we just have not had tight ends capable of doing. So that's really exciting. And real quick, before I forget, Chris makes a good point. This custom-made shirt by Jen for my birthday with, of course, Dakota Mitchell. I don't know how to pronounce it, but everyone knows by now, Campeche or Camp something collective.
You fucking butchered that.
How does it go? It's a rough word.
I don't know. I just know you butchered it.
I butchered it, but check it out. Go buy this shirt. It's very good. But yeah, so Musgrave, it's going to be really cool to see that. And then lastly, for the offense, real quick, let's just talk about the offensive line. You mentioned Rasheed Walker, big performance. Obviously, Josh Myers, a lot of struggles. So, number one, do you think week one, any surprises, or are we looking at Bakhtiari, Jenkins, Myers, Runyon, Tom?
Well, I mean, you took my whole fucking answer from me.
Oh,
I feel like that's the one thing like everybody universally agrees on right now is like that's going to be the starting offensive line.
Okay.
From left to right, that's going to be it. Bakhtiari, Jenkins, Myers, fucking Runyon, Tom. I don't see them swapping out Myers. I mean, the way Matt LaFleur talks about him, the way Brian Gutekunst talks about him, they're still pretty high on him. They spent a second-round draft pick on him. They're not going to, shift him out of the lineup. I feel like a lot of the times during training camp that we've seen him out of the lineup and, kind of someone coming into his place, that's purely just for the sake of it's training camp or experimenting. We're cross-training guys because you never know when Myers is going to drop out of a game. You never know when, anyone is going to drop out of a game. You got to have these guys cross-trained. So I think people read too much into that, as Packer fans normally do, read into everything a little too extensively. Now to round out that room, the offensive line, I've had a little bit of a struggle with, like as far as like predicting the 53-man roster goes. I mean, you have your starting five, and you have Josh Nijman, Rasheed Walker, Caleb Jones. That's 8 right there. Does Royce Newman make the roster?
I mean, I don't know how he can. I've not seen a single positive thing about him all camp.
He stinks.
Yeah. So how does he make the roster? Yeah. So if he makes the roster, I think that's just more of like Goody saying, "Oh, I can't cut a draft pick." You could cut a draft pick if they're trash, and here we are. So I don't. I mean, if they get him in the practice squad, sure. You could have a worse player on your practice squad. I don't know how you can justify giving him a roster spot.
I don't know either. I
Yeah.
get it, it's bizarre because he had a pretty good rookie season in 2021. Like he was starting caliber player. It looked like they had like a future option there. But he has taken such a step back. And then you have Sean Ryan, who, he's had, a couple nice plays during the summer. Then he's had his struggles. He's kind of a sporadic player. He's a 3rd round pick. He's part of the curse, and we all know how that goes. But I don't see them cutting him so soon. He's barely going into his 2nd season, so there's still something there to develop. I mean, that's 10 guys right there. Everyone I just named. So I feel like 9 or 10. I feel like that's what they'll end up going with. It's really hard to predict that room right now, I feel like.
Yeah, that's where I was making it when I made my earlier 53-man prediction. I did spend the most time on offensive line because we know they like to keep a lot of guys. And there's a lot of guys right now that have either been on the roster or we think are certainly going to make the roster. So it makes it pretty difficult. But overall, I think the main thing is that for the most part, everyone's pretty confident that this is going to be a good offensive line for the most part. And for Jordan Love, as we mentioned earlier, that is going to be huge also for this run game, just for everything LaFleur wants to do. It's going to be huge for this offensive line to be good. So that we'll see how that all shakes out as the last 2 weeks of training camp go.
I called it a top 5 offensive line, like with their starters. I called it top 5, and I got fucking skewered on Twitter for it.
I don't think that's that crazy. Like
it's not at all.
You have a top 2 left tackle, a top 3 left guard, and then Runyon is a good player. Is very underrated. He's a good player.
Yeah.
I think Zach Tom is basically the next Elton Jenkins, which is very exciting. The only thing we're nervous about is Josh Myers. As long as he doesn't totally fuck up, it should be okay. I mean, better than okay. It should be very good.
If Josh Myers is the worst starter on your offensive line, you're in a pretty good fucking spot.
Yeah.
I'm not with the Josh Myers, hatred being spewed right now. I still think he's going to be a really good player. And I know everyone likes to, point at the Creed Humphrey thing, but guess what? Every fucking GM misses on great players every single year.
Yeah.
Every year. It happens.
It just makes it more frustrating because it was so close that he was drafted right after. But look, it is what it is. You can look at every draft and look at 100 players drafted after whoever it is and complain about it. So hopefully Myers steps up. Like you said, it's only going into year 3. I actually thought it was going into year 4 for some reason for part of this offseason, which was maybe a little bit more of why I was like, all right, we're going to year 4, very concerned. That's not good. But year 3, he missed part of his rookie year. Hopefully he gets it together now. I mean, look, we're pretty optimistic and hopeful for Eric Stokes. It's almost the same thing. Maybe he didn't struggle as much, but he had some struggles in year 2 after a really good rookie year. No one's giving up on him yet. So let's just see how that goes.
And going through a quarterback transition.
Yeah.
Which, like I said earlier in the show, that plays a big part in it too.
And especially when you're going from, a 17-year vet to a guy taking his first start, it's going to take a little bit of time. And then there's one thing before we go, because this has been a big talk throughout all of camp, is Anders Carlson. I mean, clearly they're rolling with him. I mean, Goody made that pretty clear last week. They're not going to do anything. He's going to be the starter week 1. But at what point does Goody say, okay, well, I drafted him, but too bad? Like when he starts costing us games, when it's just like missed extra points. At what point is it okay? Like, we really wish you were good, but maybe you're not going to be good.
I think that point is going to be when he starts to lose them games. Bottom line. I mean, right now, he hasn't played a single, regular season game yet. So, there's something there. He has a strong fucking leg. You can see that. That. He's a strong leg. It's accuracy that's the issue. They're going to ride with him. And we know the Packers are historically patient with kickers. We've seen it with Mason Crosby. And every single time it seemed like Crosby was starting to dip in his career, they brought in some competition. Giorgio Tavecchio, Sam Ficken. Who was the most recent guy they brought in, I think, for competition? Can't remember his name off the top of my head, but
I can't remember. I don't know.
it was recent. It was a couple years ago, but every single time he fought them off. He kept his job because he righted the ship. I feel like if they bring competition in for Andrews Carlson, which they haven't done yet, they haven't even worked out a kicker. I feel like you do something like that, competition breeds excellence. So you bring in competition for this guy, maybe that'll light a fire under his ass and let him know, like, hey, your job is on the line.
Yeah.
You need to do what you need to do. And there's also the Rich Bisaccia connection between him and Daniel Carlson, how he helped Daniel Carlson become one of the best kickers in football.
I was just saying this to my brother. I was like, are they just like saying, oh, well, Daniel Carlson had a rough start and Bisaccia fixed him in Oakland or Vegas, whatever. That's very nice, but they're brothers. It doesn't mean it's just going to correlate and automatically Anders is going to figure it out.
Yep, I agree.
So, I mean,
it helps. It's not like it's not a guarantee, like be all end all cure, like just because he has the magic fucking touch with Daniel Carlson doesn't mean he's gonna have the same magic touch with Andrews Carlson. So, but it helps. It helps. Whatever he did technique wise to help Daniel Carlson kind of right his career, then maybe it could be applied to Andrews Carlson. I don't know. I'm not a fucking special teams coach. I'm not a goddamn kicking specialist, but it can't hurt.
No, it can't hurt. That's for sure. But all I know is that if week one comes down to a field goal and he misses it, all hell's going to break loose. And I think, Chris got the name.
Ramiz Ahmed. There you go. Yeah. He had Devontae Adams' number and everyone got pissed off.
And he did some of the kickoffs because Mason put in right there at the leg.
Yes. There was one more though, I feel like, but I'm not even going to bother trying to remember.
So either way, Anders Carlson, I'm sure you're watching right now. We have all the faith in the world, but also we're kind of nervous, so don't fuck this up because that would suck. And, that is basically we're 4 weeks into camp / preseason, getting, kind of our feet under ourselves here before the season. But I was really, happy just to get this done. And Zach, before we head out, right now we're going into the last preseason game, the last kind of week of camp. Anything you're looking at this game that can maybe really shake things up, or just something that's, you're looking out for in this last preseason game or last practices?
I just want to see the defensive front kind of continue to generate the pressure that they have been, prove that it hasn't just been a fluke these last couple weeks, show you're not going to have Rashawn Gary, probably not going to have Preston Smith this week, continue, keep it up. Whoever is back there at quarterback for the Seahawks, whether it's going to be Geno Smith or Drew Lock, doesn't matter. They're not going to have Jackson Smith and Jigba, so get out there, pressure the quarterback, get home, do what I mean. Dave Rayner, fucking Dave Rayner, that was who it was.
Okay,
that was who it was. Yes.
All right.
that was when Mason Crosby was a rookie. I don't know why I didn't fucking remember his name. I remember goddamn Giorgio Tavecchio, but I couldn't remember.
Giorgio Tavecchio is a very fun name, though. So
it is a fun name. I'll admit that. But I just want to see them continue to generate the pressure that they have been. That's going to be pretty important this season.
Yeah, I was all in on the Carl Brooks train before the draft. So if he just goes and does this again, I'm going to be convinced, we have the next Aaron Donald, which is pretty much on par with what most of Packers Twitter thinks right now. But everyone who came in to watch, we really appreciate it. Everyone in the comments, we try to get as much as you can, even though it's really basically Chris and Ben talking about their lunacy, but we still appreciate it, of course. As always, at the bottom of the screen, make sure to go give the show a follow on Twitter at the Pack_show. Do I have to say X now? I mean, I'm not going to, but it's so stupid.
It's still fucking Twitter.
I mean, literally, but I hear people now in commercials, when they reference Twitter, it's X, and it's it just doesn't feel right at all. But follow Zach at It's Zachary J. I almost said Zachariah J. But Zach, we haven't had you since your transition. Where can everyone find your new writing?
Yeah, so I'm still going to be – I had an epiphany. I had a revelation. I'm still going to be at Packer Report. I'm going to be doing my normal stuff there because I love Packer Report. I love our team there, and I love the freedom that I have. But I'll also be contributing at Heavy. I'll be doing kind of the breaking news over there. You can find me at Heavy on Packers, or you can find me at Packer Report.
Boom. Heavy on Packers and Packer Report. Of course, Jen, who's not here tonight, but hopefully will be soon. Big Mac _4, and myself at Book of Eli _NFL. Everyone, enjoy the final preseason game. We will see you probably, potentially, after that, and then going into the season. We're very excited about it. Everyone, go Pack Go. We will see you next time.